Good morning. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Kat and this is Kat Stories. So I haven't posted in a while. I actually got over being sick for 3 days, 3 to 4 days. It was really bad head cold. My sinuses were just acting up. Anyway, yeah, so I've been feeling better, and what better way than to kickstart off a readathon, which is happening a week long. Today is Monday, the 12th, 13th. My days are all mixed up. It is Monday the 13th, and the readathon that I wanted to do actually is the Backlist Readathon, and it started yesterday, but oh well, we're starting today. And I just want to film this week to do this readathon, do a vlog. So I wanted to be able to showcase some of the books that I'm going to read through this readathon, as well as the prompts. And so let's get started. So for this readathon, I will link everything that I know in the description down below, as far as like who's the host. I know there are different co-hosts, but I'm going to link the host that I saw the video through, so that way you can get, the rules and descriptions, as well as the other co-hosts. So they each did 4 prompts, and out of these 4 prompts, there is a 5th prompt that each host got to choose. So it's a scavenger hunt sort of deal. So whoever the video you saw, they got to pick a prompt, and then you kind of have to look at the other co-host's video, excuse me, to see what their 5th prompt is, and so on and so forth. So I'll link the person who I used the 5th prompt for, as well as the original host, the original maker of the video. So I hope that makes sense. So without further ado, for real this time, let's go ahead and look at the readathon prompts. So the first prompt is read a book that you thought about unhauling. And I also want to put in this note there that I chose books that I chose books that were published prior to 2022. So that's how I'm going to do this readathon, is anything published before 2022 that I have had on my list to read would be considered eligible for any of those prompts. So the prompt is, for the first book, thought about unhauling, and so for that I picked The Secret Chord by Geraldine Brooks. This is supposed to be a telling about a biblical telling over King David, and it's a retelling. And so it says, shimmering between history and legend, the biblical King David rose from obscurity to fame, from shepherd to soldier, from hero to traitor, from beloved king to murderous despot, and into a remorseful and diminished dotage. In The Secret Chord, we see David through the eyes of those who love him or fear him, from the prophet Nathan, voice of David's conscience, to his wives Michal, Abigail, and Bathsheba, and finally to Solomon, the late-born son who redeems his lear-like old age. Going through it, and it has like this pretty scene, biblical scene right there, and so it has I've had it for a while. I heard about this book through a YouTuber years ago, and they enjoyed it, or the person enjoyed it, and then I just put it on there and haven't really touched it since. I'm not too crazy on the cover, and I guess, and it's just kind of one of those I look over, not actually picked up yet. So anyway, hopefully this is the time I will get to pick it up and read it, and maybe have my thoughts over it. But I do like a good retelling, so. And it sounds like it's going to be very close with scripture. Second prompt says, author that I have read before. So because I have been sick, I initially had another book in mind, but this one I'm just going to put one of my TBR game books on. So I'm going to pick Hidden Agenda by Lisa Harris. I have read from her before, and this is going to finish the series as well as going to help me get back on track with my reading, because I am behind on it. So I'm just going to use this one. The next one the next prompt is favorite genre. For that, I picked historical fiction because that is what I really like to read. And so I picked Tessa F. Shar's last backlist book for me, and that is Thief of Corinth. So this one would complete my finishing up reading everything she has written. And so thus far, this is about a young thief living in the land of Corinth. She doesn't live with her mother anymore because I guess there was some abuse or something going on. So she goes and she runs and lives with her father. And the story kind of goes from there. So I am thinking that we might see some other early Christians in this time period because it is Corinth and it's New Testament based. So yeah, that would be interesting to read, and I cannot wait to finish another one of Tessa's books. So then the next one I had was a random number generator, and I actually previously recorded this, and I used like my phone to look at the laptop, so it's probably not the best footage, but I'm gonna go ahead and insert that now. So it is by number. So I'm gonna go down to about number 3. Okay, one more. Okay, it is number 67, which is Submerged by Danny Petrie. So as you can see, the number that I did generate, I also showed on my Goodreads what number that was as far as unread books, and it showed Submerged by Danny Petrie, and I'm gonna see if I can get that book. And part of me wants to, because this is a series that I haven't started yet, I want to read, there is a novella, I think is what it's called, right before this one called Shadowed. And that's the one I want to read first because I kind of don't want to read things out of order. But depending on my mood, I might try this, reading it out of order. And start with Submerged and then maybe backtrack to read that one later. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do there. I might pick up the novella if I can find it, or I might just go ahead and read that first, like actual book in the series. So that one, from what I know, is a mystery type series where this body is found in the water and we don't know how it got there and who it is, I don't believe. And so it follows like trying to find this killer, and I think this woman has some connection to it, or she might be the next victim. I'm not really 100% sure. I can't remember it right now off the top of my head, so, but I can't wait to try to see what this series is about. And for the last book that, the last prompt, like I said, is a co-host prompt. Depending on what co-host you watch the video from. So the one that I chose was series I already started or want to start. And again, I'm going to choose one of my previous books that I put on my TBR, and that is Unbirthday by Liz Braswell. I've read a lot of these Twisted Tale books, but some of them I've DNF'd, others I just realized that I don't like the author's writing. The series has several like different authors, and so I tend to like Jen Kalanita's books a lot more. Elizabeth Lim is a hit or miss, and Liz Braswell is the main one that has written all these books and the main one that I've like DNF'd from. And it's just some of the writing styles and some of like the way that the plot goes, I guess, is just not something that I'm interested in. So, Birthday is another Liz Braswell. It's also kind of like a second chance author for me right now, or second chance author, and so I am intrigued in the Alice in Wonderland retelling. I'm hoping it's a good book. So that is my lineup for the week, and again, I'm already behind the day, so we'll see how much I can read for this week and for this readathon, and I'll just vlog when I've read snippets as far as what I'm feeling, what I want to read and start off with. So I'm gonna go ahead and read Hidden Agenda, just because I know that this series has been fast going for me and I've really enjoyed it and I want to start off strong. Anyway, I will talk to you in the next segment. Today is Tuesday, March the 14th, I believe it's the 14th, but it's Tuesday of this readathon, and I have not, well, I haven't caught you up at the end of the day yesterday, and I apologize. Currently, as you can see, we're in a hotel room. We actually went out for spring break, and so I didn't do a lot of filming nor reading today, but I did want to pop in and just to tell you how much that I have read. I've only gotten to a chapter in the book, and right off the bat we already like are plunged into the situation, and so can't really say much because it is the third in the series, and so that'll give away, but it is since it is starting off action-packed, I believe that we're going to uncover a lot more in the series, and that we're going to get some of these answers that were kind of threaded through the first two books, because as the first two books went through, you have like two different like things that are happening, like more in like the personal side of the main characters, and then like the other side is like this big arching mystery kind of deal. And so throughout the series, like you kind of see those two parallel with each other, like the character's personal life and then this big overarching theme, this big overarching like mystery, or not really mystery, but like crime that's happening. And so we see that like in this third book, basically it starts off with that big crime, you know, and so so right off the bat it's like action packed. So that's what I want to vlog right now. I hope to finish the book. It's right here, so it's this big, so you know, one chapter, it's not really that far that I've read, but you know, since we're on vacation, I do hope to read a lot more. We're hoping to check out some shops with books, so maybe I can show later on this video what I bought, and just kind of keep updating you on the book. I don't have high hopes for this readathon like I previously had made plans, but I'm going to give as much content as I can with, you know, the books that I have gotten through and read. So I hope to see you in the next video. Hi, it is about 9 o'clock in the evening of, what's the day? Wednesday. Okay, so it's Wednesday. But it is 9 o'clock in the evening. I am exhausted, but I have reached my goal for the day to be halfway through the book. So I should be on track to finish it soon. And my goal is to at least get 2 books for this vlog. And so this is the first one, and then I have plans for the next one that I want to read. There's also the last night here at our in our hotel room for this vacation that we did. So we're actually traveling back home or traveling home tomorrow. So I don't know how much reading I'll actually get done. But anyway, so in the book where I'm at right now, again, I cannot give you a lot of information because it is the 3rd book in the series. It is a quick read. It's definitely got that thriller aspect in it. And just like I've seen from the author and how she has written the series, it is a lot of unexpected things that are happening. You have just the way that she paces her story is also very fast paced. So you're getting a lot of action and a lot of events and a lot of like answers, but also questions throughout the book according to the mystery that's happening. And so it is definitely one of those books where it could be very easily for you to not want to put down. And I mean, I had to like take a couple of breaks because yes, it is one of those things where you're like, okay, your heart does tend to pick up, at least my heart does tend to like race when I'm reading the book, but it keeps you on your toes and you're wondering like, okay, what's gonna happen next? This book so far is not one of my, I guess, favorite ones to read from, just because I don't really identify much with the main character as I did with the previous book, because the previous book, the main character was a teacher. It's easier to kind of, well, identify in the way of just like her thoughts about being a teacher, not so much of like what had happened to her. So, but anyway, but this one is definitely, I mean, it's still a good book. It's right off like very like hard for me to put it down because I'm wanting to see what happens next. And like I said, it's very fast paced. So, you know, I'm just anxious to see like how the series is gonna wrap up. So I'll talk to you then. Bye. Okay, so it is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. It's Friday. Husband is prepping dinner, which is probably why you can hear a little bit in the kitchen. But anyway, I finished, let me get my book, finished Hidden Agenda by Lisa Harris. And it's kind of a big book. It's the large print version from the library. But yes, I finished the book, and it was pretty much a whirlwind of a wrapping up of the series, in my opinion. Just because I tried to finish the series hurriedly, because this readathon technically ends tomorrow, but I'm already going to allow myself to have an extra day since I did miss some days because I was sick. So, and I really wanted to do at least 2 books for this vlog. So as far as the book goes, I thoroughly enjoyed reading about this family in the series, and you do see some of the characters from the first two coming back, and so you get to hear a little bit more of a follow-up with their stories, which is great. As far as the romance, because they do have underlining romances in the stories, and so the romance in this story, I will say, felt a bit rushed, and it was acknowledged within the story that they were saying, like, oh, when they were falling for each other, they were basically saying like it was rushed, but so it was nice that they acknowledged that. However, I would say it wasn't one of my favorite stories, because I normally don't really like a rushed relationship in my books. I mean, I guess like not how it felt like it was rushed in this sense, but anyway, that's just a minute detail. But I did enjoy, reading the story, especially when you got to find out, answers. So there was definitely like lots of questions that kept arising, so you didn't get bored with it, because again, twists and turns, and then you have more questions than you did answers, until of course where it wrapped up near the end. Anyway, I would give it a 4. And again, it wasn't one of my favorite ones within the series, but it was very enjoyable. So that completes one from my reading vlog. So I'm just looking at all the other books I plan to read for this this backlist readathon, and because I feel like my expectations are a little low for this book, part of me feels like I would just go ahead and read this one. But the one that I picked is going to be Unbirthday by Liz Braswell. And that book, again, I have very low expectations, just because I didn't really enjoy the other books that she has written, the other works that she has written in the Twisted Tale series. And it's just the writing style, it's just very deep in the fantasy and technical, like, writing of the descriptions of things, and I think that's the reason why I put the books down. And she does delve in a little bit more with like magic stuff, so I know I'm taking a gamble even reading this book, but I don't know. I had 2 more books of these Twisted Tale series that I wanted to check out, just because for nostalgia sake. I did grow up watching Alice in Wonderland. It was not my favorite growing up. It was my sister's favorite, but it's still enough to where I want to give the old Disney movies that I did grow up with a try with, these Twisted Tales. I'm going to try to finish this book, and then that will be my last book for this video vlog. Anyway, and I did put up clips of part of our trip, and so I just wanted to share a little bit of what my husband and I did for our spring break. So I will be back to tell you what I think about Unbirthday. Talk to you in the next segment. Okay, good morning. It's Saturday, March 18th, and I had read 4 chapters into Unbirthday, and for the most part, I am intrigued with the storyline. Now, Unbirthday does start off with Alice, and she is, in England. For those who don't know the Alice in Wonderland story, and I'm talking about the Disney movie, by the way, the cartoon. But she follows this white rabbit down a hole and finds herself in Wonderland, and it has a lot of adventures there. Some are, well, most all are is very nonsense based, very much so, like, it's hard to describe, but very like, I think there's a lot of British satire in the movie. So and I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I remember some of that satire. And they have like different adventures she goes through, and ultimately she meets the Queen of Hearts, and you know, it's all about her trying to get back into the real world, so to speak. And so that's the Disney movie. I probably should have said spoilers for those who haven't seen it. I'm sorry. But this book is based off of the Disney movies. So in Unbirthday, this is all about what if Alice made it to Wonderland late, like not on time, you know? And so the book starts off with Alice. She is 18 years old, and we see that she does have this hobby of taking pictures and just taking pictures of things that sort of remind her in a way of a dream that she has had. And so we get the sense that she has been to Wonderland and she's having memories of it. So we also get that she has a sister, and you know, she lives with her parents, and her sister really wants her to settle down and find a young man to get engaged to. And so and that's unusual, because typically you would think that the parents would be the ones really involved in wanting to do this matchmaking, but it's really her sister, her older sister. So I found that interesting, that the sister took this responsibility, and the father is not really engaged as much as like wanting his little girl to get married. He's just like, anything dealing with men, I don't want to deal with that because she's always my princess, you know. So he's kind of like not engaged as far as that, but we know that he loves Alice very well. And the mother is more of, I think that's where Alice gets her spirit from, is the mother, because of just how the mother is also like very much, I like to do my own thing. I don't really care for these social calls. I much rather, you know, sew or knit or just be outside kind of deal. But so it seems like the sister is very much like calling the shots, and you know, it's just kind of, it's interesting. So anyway, as the story is progressing, and we see Alice, you know, meeting people as she's taking these pictures, and she's getting those pictures developed and getting bits and pieces of Wonderland. So that is where I ended, with her having this sense of there is something going on in Wonderland. And I will say the chapter that I finished reading did end with a picture that to me seemed very horrific. It doesn't have like gruesome detail, but it's just enough to where you know, like, okay, there is something gruesome about what is happening. And I think that, well, I guess let's just say that I'm kind of on my guard about like where the story is going to go. But right now I am intrigued enough to know what's like, wanting to know what happened. So far the writing is to me a little different than the ones that I have read from her in the past. The only one I can remember that I've read all the way through was Straight On Till Morning, and that was a little like, I had to push myself to finish that one because I was determined to finish a book from her. But this one, I think what it is intriguing is that it has that bit of history, because it talks about immigrants and like how they are fitted in the society in England back in the day. And it's not like super detailed, it's just a little bit, we get a glimpse of it. And so it does make, like, I guess it piqued the interest to see, like, is there going to be a little bit more talk about that? I see that the author is writing a little bit more about like how society has viewed people different from them. And I noticed that is kind of a theme that she usually writes about. Oh, I will say there's no language so far, so that's good, and no like inappropriate scenes, and I don't expect to see any like sexual content. A lot of the a lot of these that I have read, and I'm trying to remember, they usually are really good at no language and no sexual content of that sort. So what I've run into issues with is like talking about witchcraft and the writing style, as well as like the getting into deep into some like mythology that I found uncomfortable to read about. This so far does not have any of that, so we shall see. So it is evening, and I actually got a new phone, so I am filming from that, and hopefully the camera quality is a little better. Yeah, I am yeah, my hair. Anyway, I'm exhausted because we did a lot of extra work today. Today was the first time my husband and I actually worked on school stuff to get ready for this next week coming up. So there was just a lot of things that we had to do. So I'm a little like head tired, I guess, but I did get to read a lot more into the book. I'm actually past 100 pages right now, which was the goal. The book definitely has some dark moments into it. I'm in the part where Alice is in Wonderland and she is seeing like the devastation that is going on from the evil queen or the Queen of Hearts, and there are some moments to where you're like, that can be very dark, especially some of the topics and what Alice is experiencing. There is not much details as far as gruesome, but there are some dark themes in it. But it's not enough like a put my book down, like I want to DNF it. There is this person that they're looking for that I am actually very curious about, and I like the parallels that it does have with some of the Disney movie. Like the Liz Braswell really does talk about the original Disney movie and pulls from that and puts it in her story, which it plays off of the nostalgia for me. So that's why that's why I keep reading about it. But I'm not sure exactly how dark this book could get, and so that would probably be the reason why I would put the book down. I am done reading for the night. I'm reading this on my phone as well as an ebook, so I can only read for so long. I don't have a Kindle, I don't have an iPad, I have my phone, and that's where I read my ebooks. So even though my glasses are blue light, after a while I just need to take a break with my eyes. So that's also kind of hinders how fast I am reading this book. Anyway, I'll see you in the next segment. Okay, hello. I am in my dress from church this morning. It is Sunday afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock. But I did want to talk more about this book. I did have a chance to read more. I'm about 170-ish pages in, so I'm not even at the 200 mark yet. So I wanted to share a couple of more of my thoughts and then my decision about the book. But from the get-go, it was, you've heard a little bit of my tendencies of just hesitancy with it. So I decided that I was actually going to DNF the book, and there are some reasons why. First and foremost, like I said, it is a fantasy book, and a lot of fantasy books, it takes time to build the world, to understand what is going on, and it's just the author just really trying to capture you within the story. So I understand that part. I also find that I am not a huge fantasy reader in that regards. Now, granted, I haven't read a lot of fantasies. I mean, I've read Fox by Nadine Brands, I believe is the last name. And other than that, I can't, at the top of my mind, really remember if I've read any other like fantasy books other than some of the Twisted Tale series. And for me, I felt like the author would repeat the same information but in different ways. And I think in a way she does that on purpose, just because it is Wonderland and it's all about like nonsense and stuff. And so there were some things where they would like go around in riddles or repeat. And when I was thinking more about her other books, I just noticed that there was a lot of repeating, but in different ways of the same things, I guess, if that makes sense. And I, for one, did not really, I don't really enjoy that, I guess. She does build this world, but since it is taken from the Disney movie, I already felt like I had that world already in my mind. So reading about it was like nostalgic in some parts, but in other parts it was okay. I understand that part. And so, and this is again all my opinion about it. Again, I'm not a big fantasy reader, and so I'm not really sure if that's just fantasy in general. I mean, I know world building is a big part of that, but I guess it's like I felt like there was a lot of like repeating the same thing, describing the same way. Like, for instance, the author was talking about the color red and just how the whole world that Alice stepped into had a red tinge. And so they were like, the trees are one color red, or like this other thing was a deeper shade of red, and then this other one was another shade of red. And so I was like, okay, I get it. It's all red, you know. But I felt like, you know, stuff like that, like kind of describing the atmosphere, but using a lot of like, I don't know, to me it felt redundant, and I was ready to move on to the next thing. So that was like the first little thing about it that I was not too big on. The second thing would be, yes, it is Wonderland, so there was a lot of like different nonsense and like gibberish, and I started to feel that like I was getting a little irritated because it's, you wanted to know what happened, but it felt like you had a lot of this useless information, I guess, in between. So like fluff is what I would call it. And you know, I was barely to page 200, and this is like an over 400 plus book, you know. So it was getting to a point to where I was skimming through a lot of the details, or just like the riddles, or just like the little descriptions of certain characters or the certain things happening in the background, because I was getting bored, and I wanted to move on. And so that was basically the last straw for me, because I started to skim. And usually when I start to skim through a book, I start to ask myself questions like, why am I reading the book? If I'm just going to skim pass through and you know, a lot of pages at a time just to get to a certain point. And so it was definitely a ring around the rosy sort of thing. So it started to feel longer than what I feel like the book should really be. But I mean, you don't know exactly how I guess everything ties together. So I guess take this with a grain of salt, if you will, about why, I guess, the things being useless or not, it might all have something to tie into at the end, but for me, I'm not willing to get there. Liz Braswell was just not an author for me. This was basically like a fifth chance with Liz Braswell, and I just find that the writing style seems to be the same. A lot of her books are the longer books in the Twisted Tale series. And so I'm actually going to take off the last Twisted Tale book from Liz Braswell that I've had, and that was Part of Your World. Again, because Liz Braswell is just not an author for me, and another reason for that is because Ursula is known as the Sea Witch, and so I feel like that's probably going to have a lot more like witchcraft stuff in it, and I just don't want to just pick that up. So I figured, you know what, I'll just take that off. If there are other Twisted Tales that do come out, specifically Jen Kolanita, that author, I actually thoroughly enjoyed the Frozen one that she did, and I did read Mirror Mirror and Go the Distance. Those were the other two, and those were a little lower in my rankings, and I think Mirror Mirror was like borderline for me, like too witchcrafty, because the queen, the evil queen. But I did enjoy her writing style better, so depending on what other Disney character comes out, I might, and if she writes it, I might read it. I'm not going to give up on the series just because I have enjoyed the other authors' writings, and I know they have new ones that come in, but I'm going to be more selective in which Disney movie it's from, because I think there was one that was Princess and the Frog one, almost there, but I know that the Princess and the Frog has voodoo a lot in that movie, as well as the writing, I believe, is going to focus more on that, because it talks about Tiana making a deal with the Shadow Man, so I'm not going to read that one. So anyway, number 2 would be who is writing it. I hope you enjoyed and got some information about these 2 books that I did do a review on, or rather even just DNF'd, and got to see a little bit more of my reading tastes and my thoughts. And so keep an eye out for another video. I am planning to show a book haul soon over my spring break trip that my husband and I took, and so I'm excited to share some of the finds that we found. So anyway, I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.